We're looking at the lead pack in the men's Gold Coast Airport Marathon. They'd be just coming through about 14k now, but the women who we're not seeing on screen, gents, but we've got the 10k splits there, so 34.58 for Kato and a pack of, well, in fact, the second Japanese there, Shintaku, and a couple of the Ethiopians and Kenyans. So that's pretty much on close to race record pace in the women as well. That's a good sign, good sign conditions.
And they hold pretty well. Whilst I always think the men will slow, normally a couple of minutes or maybe a minute or more, but the women normally hold, so they're going pretty well through 10k. They're on that 2:27 pace, and there's a good pack of them. There's 4 or 5 of them on exactly. Normally we see the women spread out quite quickly, but they've got a really close pack, so that will certainly help their racing, and that augurs well for that course record in the women's race.
So we've got a good solid pack of about 12 to 14. Well, it really is, the Africans and the Japanese there, guys. We'll look for a time, some splits on Troopy fairly shortly. So Lee Troop, as much as he's a 2.9 runner, we know he's not in that sort of shape. And I think it was going to be a bit difficult for him, wasn't it? Because there was the lead pack and then a bunch of guys who are the other side of 2:20. So he might be running on his own out there.
Although the Australian Marathon title, there's 3 or 4 guys, Rowan Walker and Vlad Shatroff and John Dutton as well, who will all be, so there's a race within a race, and they'll all be in that sort of 2:20 to 2:23, 24 bracket. So I actually expect that they'll have a little bit of a pack there and can form their own pack. They'll be helping each other out for a little while, Rob. They won't be helping each other out too much in the latter part of the race when the title's up for grabs, but they'll know each other and have good respect for each other, so they'll help each other out. So I expect they will form their own pack in that sort of Australian race within a race.
Yeah, and I'd love to see, Troopy surprise himself. I mean, he's really in a very untroopy-like fashion been talking himself down this week.
Yes, he's normally good at talking a good game, good race.
And I think that's a good thing. He's such a passionate, emotional sort of bloke. He often, I think, sort of hypes himself up so much that a lot of the race is done before they even fire the gun.
Yes.
But this time he's come in, I think, with a much more relaxed attitude, and he's really just looking forward to giving a good representation and showing here. And I'm hoping that he might be able to surprise himself and a few others, and just be able to run well. And it's great, what Mon is saying about the national championship as well. This would be a great opportunity for him to finish with a medal, if he's able to still have some running in his legs over that last 10k.
So he's running pretty evenly. I've got 5 and 10k splits for Lee Troop, so very even, 16.34 and 16.33, so through 10k in 33.07 for Lee Troop. I was talking to him yesterday and I was saying, gee mate, I think the marathon gods kind of owe you one. It'd be nice if they smiled on you today. Yeah. And not that we're discrediting the other qualified athletes there, Alistair, Stephen and Vlad and the others, but I guess there's a bit of a sentimental touch to see Lee Troop come out with an Australian championship.
Wouldn't that be nice if they just waited for him and carried him across the finish line or something? It's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's a 2:19.44 pace that
there you go.
he's
So
on at the
right
moment. So if he can maintain that, that'll be a great finish for him. Even if he slips a couple of minutes, I think he'd be really happy with that.
I mean, he ran a 10k in Launceston a couple of weeks ago. Whilst he was on his deathbed about 2 months ago, he had with the blood clot, he's bounced back unbelievably well, and he ran 30.15 for 10k on the road. So he's going through in 33 minutes. So he's got that 3-minute buffer, which shows
that's below the threshold. That's okay.
Yeah, he should be fine. It's really, I think, as Rob says, I don't think any of us would understand or would doubt his class and his capacity to run at that pace. It's just whether those interruptions in the last few months have just taken that real consistent running out of his legs. So it'll be the last 10k. It won't be the pace. He can run 2:20 till the cows come home, but if his body gives up and he gets really fatigued in that last 10k, that will be what slows him down. It won't be his determination or his ability, that's for sure.
So we are dead even running here. We've been running 15.15, 3:03 pace, and as we go through 15 kilometres, the pacemakers, Sean Quigley and Isaac Wanjui, have taken the lead pack through in record-breaking pace, 45.44. So but we'd expect even running at the moment, wouldn't we, Rob and Steve?
Yeah, and they're about to hit the most southerly point on the run, so they'll be turning soon and heading back. So this is a pretty significant point on the course because they're through 15k. It's a third. They're probably thinking, we've got the first to third done, and once they turn and start heading back, they're feeling like we've been here before. It's nothing new. We're just getting into our race now.
Yeah, 2:08.44. So by my calculations, they're actually just sort of creeping it a little bit faster. So the guys have settled down after that first 5k, and I think are really starting to knuckle down there. And sort of through 15k, not very far now from halfway. And psychologically, it's always such a great lift to know that you're sort of into the second half. You're actually heading home, sort of, even though there's a couple of turns and twists in the course. But psychologically, that getting that first half marathon out of the way is always nice.
And that's a pace they were looking at about. Well, the pacemakers say 64 to 64:30.
Yep.
And I think Rob and I would both agree, and Ian, we spoke about, we want them closer to 64:00.
Yes.
And that's the pace they're running now. So that's a good sign at this point in time. There is that turnaround. They've just turned. So that's 15.6k they've gone through. So they're 15k down and starting to turn. And they basically retrace their steps back now to the 31k point.
Those sharp turns are hard, aren't they? I mean,
they do break up your rhythm.
Yeah, and sort of, it's the rhythm is really all about the marathon. Or the marathon's all about rhythm. And when you do have a really sharp U-turn like that, you've got to slow down, you've got to twist and turn, and then you've got to start to find that rhythm again and pick up the pace.
And you don't want to drop off. And you almost got to spread. It's almost single file when you hit a bump or go around a turn. And that means then, you want to pack up. So you've got to make a little bit of an effort to get back on. So you don't want to be the last one on the train. The last one on the train is normally the first one off. So you're responding a bit harder. And eventually, I know it doesn't seem much, just a little 10-metre sprint to get back up to the pack. You do that in a marathon, and that's what comes back to bite you in the bum at 35k.
So we haven't seen any movement at drink stations. That can often be probably in the second half of a race where guys can make decisive moves. We're looking at Jeffrey Eggleston there from the US.
First American elite guy to run in the Gold Coast Airport Marathon. So he ran just under 2:12, 2:11.57 at Boston earlier this year. So he's coming off, that's a personal best for him, so he's coming off good form. Been to the World Championships, I think he was 13th at the World Championships last year, so very experienced. He is on the back, though.
Yes,
he's the last one on the train.
I wondered if he might be a dark horse. I tweeted him yesterday to ask if he was in sub 2:10 shape. He sent me back a private message. He didn't want to give too much away, and he just said, I'll stay with the leaders and go for the record. So just trying to sort of stay under the radar, and maybe he's just sitting and playing a watching game, seeing if he can hold this pace.
Yeah.
Right, okay. I'll go with your line, Ian.
The world of Twitter, I mean, you don't need a microphone or anything else, or a television camera to broadcast your intentions to the world, so you've got to be careful on social media too these days.
Yeah.
Well, there's no way that he should be dropping off, through 15k. I mean, the marathon, strictly speaking, hasn't really even started.
Yes.
This is still all just the warm up, and if he's even sort of half a stride or a stride off the lead pack this early on, then that's not a good sign for him.
Now look, but we've got, most importantly, a good strong pack of a dozen or so runners. We've only seen the pacemakers doing their bit. I think Stephen Tum might have had a little bit of a share of the lead briefly, but Sean Quigley and Isaac Wanjui are the two guys doing the hard work there. Yeah. The other guys, they're just more than happy to sit back. They don't want to be doing any leading at this point, do they, Mona?
No, that's where you want to be. And we see Samuel Waldemmanuel just behind there in the yellow, and he's a 2:08 marathon run a couple of years ago now, but he seems to be more prominent. But we're not calling the people here because we don't need to yet. We don't want to get your hopes up. There's Adahana, the Ethiopian. We've got the Japanese. There's strong 3 or 4 Japanese there. So the race this is just everyone's here who we would expect to be here at this point in the race. So they're right on pace, no surprises. The good news is that as I was worried that we might lose 5 or 6 by now. So the fact that we've still got a pretty strong pack, that augurs well for later in the race, because the more that are in the pack later on in the race, then the more chance that the pace will stay on.
Lead Troop 49.56 at 15 kilometres. So Troopy's still going fairly strong. That's still around 2:20 pace, guys. So that's encouraging in that regard. Rob, in your racing days, were you always more comfortable having a pack around you, or would you rather split them early on?
Oh, look, I think in a championship race, I'd probably be happy to run with the pack, especially through the first, sort of 25k or thereabouts, and then really the competitive side of it starts. In a city marathon like this Gold Coast Airport marathon, sort of I'd be happy just to have a crack.
Yep.
I mean, sort of there's no sheep stations really on these. It's not like you're representing your country. It's a chance for you to run a good fast time, and I reckon these sorts of races are opportunities for runners to show a bit of courage and a little bit of guts, and the old saying, no guts, no glory.
Yes.
So I'd get out there and have a go, and in an early, even sort of in that first half, start to test the rest of the field. And I think that's sort of also one of the big changes we've seen in the international marathon scene in the last sort of 10 or 15 years. When Monners and I were racing, there was like, oh, you can't, don't do anything in the first 10 or 15k. Let's wait until we're getting closer to halfway. But now a lot of these African guys are right from the gun, just sort of giving it a real crack, and that's why we're seeing the super fast times run on the world stage, and also the depth. The whole field just get dragged through, and they just hang on and end up running these great fast times.
Well, in years gone by, if you're a sort of a 2.8 Kenyan or African, you'd get a bit of notoriety. If you can't run 2.45 and you're African, you're almost a nobody in the world marathon scene these days, aren't you?
Yeah, look, it's just incredible, the depth through Kenya, Ethiopia. It's amazing to see that this has just become such an industry. It used to be maybe a little business,
yes,
small business, but now it's a big multinational industry, and the agents are involved, and the national federations are sort of, they've got their finger in the pie, and there's a lot of people with investments in the depth of the running. So they've got the massive training programs through Kenya and Ethiopia, and big serious professional coaches who
yes,
have a whole crop of runners that they're cultivating, and they almost sort of have different runners coming through on a seasonal basis, and they a lot of them just sort of hit the big time. They're around for maybe a year or two, and then they're gone.
yes.
Very few of them, like your Gabra Selassies, have the longevity to really make a mark, and we really want runners to stay around, because as far as the spectators are concerned, it just sort of, if you just keep on having these new crop of guys coming through year after year, you don't really, the spectators find it very difficult to develop a familiarity and a
yes,
a following for these guys. You look at tennis, and the champions are around for so long, and they end up with this massive following. But we sort of struggle in the marathon, I think a little bit with the connection through to the spectators.
So as much as we talk about the fantastic efforts of the Kenyans and Ethiopians, I mean, for most of these guys, it's a passport to a better life. For them, the only two ways to break out of the humdrum in those countries are either through education or through sport, and the obvious sport is distance running. Do you think there's a danger with a lot of these guys that they win one big race, they get their $100,000, they can go home and build something, buy a couple of herd of cattle? Do they get a bit comfortable in making it once, as opposed to being hungry and having ongoing success and leaving a legacy?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think there's a tendency for them to a lot of the programs that they work within to churn and burn.
Yes.
And the massive workload that they do. If they survive, then they become superstars. But because the workload is so hard, the risk of injury and breakdown is pretty great, and maybe sort of the recovery and the rehabilitation and the sports medicine isn't quite as easily accessible in some of these places as what it is in Australia and the US and stuff. But it's you know, it's still, I mean, it's exciting to see the depth and to see some of these times. But you know, it's you know, just so different to what we're used to here in Australia.
So you're looking at Isaac Wanjui.
And I reckon I think Sean Quigley's struggling, so we might lose one at the second of the pacemakers. I'm sure he's trying to get to 21k through halfway, but I think he's battling a bit. So looks like Isaac might be our lone pacer. And we're hoping he'll get to 30, but that can get pretty tough if you're by yourself. You know, they're approaching 20k, so he looks pretty relaxed. But I just sense that Sean's struggling a bit. So.
Yeah, so this is the point where the race, the leaders come past the back markers, the middle of the pack runners. Deke, it's fantastic for the everyday runners to get that close up and personal view of the elite guys and to get a sense for how fast they're running. It's quite special in that regard, rather than just a course that goes from point to point.
Yeah, look, and you know, how often as a recreational sports person do you have a chance to participate in the same event as these champions and superstars, and you know, to actually feel and see the pace that the champions are running. And you know, you're out there, you know, sort of trying to shuffle along and just get one foot in front of the other, and these the lead pack come floating past, you know, sort of cruising and relaxed, you know, sort of looking around at each other and trying to figure out, you know, sort of what tactics will I employ, you know.
Yes.
The rest of the field are just trying to get to the finish line.
Yeah, it's quite extraordinary. But I'm sure they probably almost feel like high-fiving some of the leaders, but that's the last thing you'd be thinking about doing when you're in the lead pack, of putting out a hand for a high five. But they're close enough to be able to do that. So it is very special as they come back again. I think we're probably coming back through Hedges Avenue, this narrow corridor. It's shaded mostly, a few breaks in the buildings, protected from the wind. Once they emerge from here, they'll go through Surfers Paradise, back up to Southport, and then it's race on, Rob.
Yeah, look, and that's, you know, really what all the spectators and everyone watching the telecast are waiting for. You know, what's going to happen in the closing stages of this, because you know, it's a good big pack of quality runners from you know, sort of different countries, different cultures, all striving for the same thing. So it's really, I think, going to be pretty exciting to see who's actually prepared to have a crack once we lose the pacemaker, and if we can, you know, sort of have one of those elite guys who is prepared to go to the front. You see the pacemaker starting to look around, so maybe the guys are just slowing a little bit.
I sense that. I think that's what's happening out there, Rob. So yeah, and he's got a gap almost.
So maybe, you know, there's a little bit of you know, sort of just making sure that they get a little bit of fluids and stuff. Not all of them seem to take fluids, which is really interesting, because it looks as though it's warming up out there. And if they're not all taking fluids, then that might be a good sign. Maybe it's not quite as warm as what it appears with all that direct sunshine.
So we see Isaac Wanjui looking around. Those body signs are obviously enough monitor. He's telling the pack, well, come on, I'm going to pick it up. I'm doing my job. You've got to come with me.
Yeah, that suggests to me that the pace is a bit hot. So they're on that 2:8:44, and I'm sensing that they're not going to be able to keep that. So we may be just slightly dropping off.
He'll drag them with him, won't he? I mean, he has picked up the pace a little bit. We're not sure if
he'll have to read it though, and so he will hold the pace.
Yes.
And now he'll gap them, and he'll kind of go, well, come on, this is the pace. I'm on the pace. You need to be with me. If they don't respond in a short time, he'll probably have to then go, oh, they can't go with me, I need to back off a little bit, and hopefully go back and pick them up and then drag them up again.
Yeah,
that's experienced pacemaking for you. So he'll go back and say, okay, we can't hold that, but let's just work on it. We'll get back on it slowly.
So a couple of other guys we were looking at, Rowan Walker, Australian runner, he was running pretty solidly, sort of around 16:50, 16:48 pace at 15k, 50:40 for Rowan through there. and we'll be looking for the 20k splits for the elite runners.
And the women is interesting. We've got 2 Japanese and 2 Ethiopians, but the Ethiopians, then they've actually got quicker. They're running faster. They've picked it up a little bit through 15k. They're actually under that 2:28 time, so they're getting faster, but they've dropped Tessima, which is interesting. So our champion from 2011,
yes,
I think Ian is struggling, but there's 2 Japanese and 2 Ethiopians, and they're running fast, and there are 4 of them together, which is a good sign.
Last year we saw Akaba come back from bridge a significant gap, so Tessima, it's hard to know.
I'm writing her off, and I love writing them off early. It's my job.
Last year you and Trippy and I had a bit of a debate through the closing stages about whether it was the Ethiopian or Kawauchi. I put my money on Kawauchi when the Ethiopian was leading. Trippy had his money on the Ethiopian. I'm sure it was a $100 bet, wasn't it, Mona?
That's why you get paid the big bucks, mate. You're always right. We know.
I defer to your experience. Listen to these blokes, Rob De Castella and Steve Monaghetti, as we get through the serious end of the race. We're going to be looking through the probably for a 20k split very soon. I
think they're through 20 at that drink station, so we may even get a halfway. So I'm just saying, here we go. Here's the predictions already. I'm sensing they've just dropped off that pace a little bit. So I reckon that they'll be, rather than being, on 64.00, I reckon they might be just through in the lower 64s. And rather than the 2:8.44 that Rob was saying they were on, I think they might be closer to 2:9.
Well, just looking at Yuki Kawauchi's 15 to 20k split, that was a big drop. 15 seconds. 15:27 is Kawauchi.
Yep.
So it
looks like the lead pack's down to 3.
Wow.
So it's splitting up already. I mean, would that second pack be seeking to catch up, or they'd be happy to sit back, Rob?
Look, I think it's not a good sign if the pace is even, and that's obviously what's happening with the pacemaker, to see guys dropping off. It's very hard once you drop off to actually come back. And again, it's still relatively early in the marathon, so they should be able to run a good even pace and keep in contact. So it's I think we're probably going to find that lead pack's going to split up pretty quickly.
All right, we'll keep a very close eye on this. In the meantime, we are going to go to the central stage here at the Gold Coast Airport Marathon Precinct for the presentation for the half marathon, the ASICS half marathon.
I'm going to have to shoot off, guys, too.
Well, thank you very much, and welcome to our presentation area the morning of the Gold Coast Airport Marathon. A magnificent crowd, and a welcome to you all here and having a look around. It is just a sea of faces, and well done to all of those that have completed their race so far today. Just to bring you up to date with what's happened so far on the weekend, and just going through the summary of yesterday's results. In the Southern Cross University 10k run, that was won by Mitchell Brown in a time of 30 minutes and 1 second. Our first female home was Bridley Delaney in a time of 33.53. In the 2k junior dash, Harrison Turner won in 6 minutes 55 seconds, and Imogene Stewart won the girls in 7 minutes and 6 seconds. In the 4k junior dash, we had Joel Lonsdale winning in 13.15, and Katrina Robinson again, I think it was her 4th victory in succession, winning in 13.47. So well done to all of those youngsters in the 2k and 4k and those runners in the Southern Cross University 10k dash. Now today, of course, we're going to present the IAAF Oceania Area Half Marathon Championships. The ASICS Half Marathon presentations will take place. The Suncorp Bank Volunteer Thank You Acknowledgement will have our official speeches a little bit later on. The Gold Coast Airport Marathon presentations, of course, and as you've seen out on the course, the wheelchair participating as well. We'll have the 15k presentations and also the wheelchair marathon presentations. But first up this morning, we're going to launch into the IAAF Oceania Area Half Marathon Championship presentations, and I would like to invite from Oceania Athletics Association Executive Director Yvonne Mullins to the stage, and Yvonne is going to assist us with these presentations. In third place today in the Oceania Area Half Marathon Championships, a time of 1:14.49 from Victoria, Karina Fife. Well done, Karina. Congratulations to you. In second place today in a time of 1:14.25, also from Victoria, Sinead Diver. with her own cheer squad. But the winner of our Oceania Area Half Marathon Championships today from New South Wales in a time of 1:14.4, Millie Clark. Well done to the girls, and we might get them all to hop up on the number 1 box there and have a group photograph and a group hug. There we go. Well done, girls. Congratulations to you. Yvonne, don't go too far away because we're about to do the men, of course. Thank you, girls. Beautiful. Well done. Now, Yvonne is going to assist with the presentation of the Oceania Area Half Marathon Championships for the men. In third place, all the way from across the ditch in New Zealand in a time of 1:05.52, Aaron Pulford. Well done, Aaron. Congratulations to you. Just 1 second in front of Aaron in a time of 1:05.51 from Tasmania, Josh Harris in second place. And the winner and back-to-back wins for New South Wales in a time of 1:05.33, Brad Milosevic. Well done, congratulations, and we'll get the boys to hop up on the number 1 box there. Hop up there and have the mandatory photographs taken. Great result indeed. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Beautiful. And thank you very much, Yvonne. Yvonne Mullins presenting those awards. Now we move to the ASICS Half Marathon presentations. I'd like to invite the Senior Marketing Manager of ASICS Oceania, Sam Chew, to the stage, and Sam is going to assist us with these presentations. Now, the race record for the ladies was set in 2010 by Lisa Jane Whiteman of 1 hour and 9 minutes. And the girls didn't quite get there today, but it was a great race indeed. Sam's going to assist us. And in third place in the ASICS Half Marathon in a time of 1:14.49 from Victoria, Karina Fife. In second place in a time of 1:14.25 from Victoria, Sinead Diver. And in first place in a time of 1:14.04 from New South Wales, Millie Clark. And we'll get Millie just to pop down here and have a quick chat with us. Millie, congratulations today. Tell us a little bit about how the race panned out.
I took it a bit easy at the start just because I don't really have much experience with running that far. So, you know, just took it easy and slowly and steady, build up my rhythm, and it worked out all right.
So not too far in front of the other two girls. Did you run as a group towards the end?
Not really. No, we were close, but not in a pack.
So tell us a little bit about your athletics career. You're saying that step up to the ASICS Half Marathon distance is probably a little bit not too far. Obviously, you do it very, very well, but not normally in your repertoire as your athletics is concerned.
No, I've come from a sprinting background where I had a strict no more than 1 lap policy. So, you know, just slowly building up, and maybe the marathon one day, but not yet.
So another 21.1 Ks to add to what you've done today?
Yes, it doesn't seem like something fun, but who knows, you never know. If you train for it, you should be able to do it.
Good on you, Millie. Congratulations to you and the other girls today. Hop back up on the number 1 box there and have a photo with the girls. How about a big hand for Millie Clark, the winner of our ASICS Half Marathon here today. So the 3 girls just having their mandatory photograph taken. And thank you, girls. All good. And we'll get Sam to stay with us. And we will move to the men's. Now, the race record for the ASICS Half Marathon for men is held by Benson Mazia from Kenya in 1:01.16. Now, that was set way back in 1992. In third place today in a time of 1:05.51 from Tasmania, Josh Harris. In second place, in a time of 1:05.33 from New South Wales, Brad Milosevic. And our winner today, who won a gold medal at the Sydney Olympics. He said by his own admission that he hasn't been running too much these days, but gee, it was a great performance today. In a time of 1:04.56, all the way from Kenya, Reuben Kosgei. Reuben, congratulations today, a fantastic runner. Now, I saw you interviewed before. You said you haven't been running a great deal, but you did enough to keep the boys at bay today.
Yeah, the race today was good. I ran good. Everyone ran good. I like the way we ran. So we everyone enjoyed the race today.
What did you think of the Gold Coast course?
The Gold Coast course is fantastic. I like it. Very flat, very nice course. So very good for running.
And plenty of spectators out there cheering you on?
Sorry?
Plenty of spectators wishing you all the best on the course?
Oh yeah, thanks.
So what's coming up now?
There is some races coming up, city to south in Sydney.
So going back to 2000, that must have been a great thrill winning an Olympic gold medal.
Yeah, it was my great time to win a gold medal. Yeah.
Well, good on you. Pop back up here. Give him a big hand, ladies and gentlemen. Reuben Kosgei, the winner today. And all the boys, Josh, Brad and Reuben, have done very, very well indeed. Give them a big hand once again, ladies and gentlemen, the winners of our ASICS Half Marathon Championships, and Sam Chu. Thank you, Sam. We really appreciate ASICS once again being part and parcel of the Gold Coast Airport Marathon. Thanks, boys. Ladies and gents, of course, you can catch all the action. We're going to throw you back to the main commentary position. The boys are doing an absolutely fantastic job. We'll be back here around 10 o'clock with the rest of our presentations today. And, of course, the Sunbank acknowledgement presentations coming up. And we will have our Gold Coast Airport Marathon presentations and our wheelchair presentations. But in the meantime, it's back to our central commentary position.
Welcome back to the studio at the Gold Coast Airport Marathon 2014, and it's a welcome to Brett Lana from Japan Running News, a Canadian living in Tokyo. And Brett,
right.
You're absorbed in the Japanese running scene and you're watching the race unfold with interest.
I am, yes. It's a very good Japanese field this year. Yes.
So we've seen a bit of a decisive move. We'll go back out to the race coverage in a moment, but we're not sure if a couple of the Japanese have slipped off the pace. So Yuki Kawauchi, he dropped between 15 and 20k, and we're seeing Takeda, who is probably the one who's looking strongest out of the Japanese runners.
That's right, Takeda does seem to be the front-running Japanese right now. It's a bit of a surprise of the four really good Japanese men who are here. He has the slowest PB. He's the only one who hasn't broken 2:10. But when he has run well, he's been very aggressive like this, and he's been right up front throughout the whole race. Yeah.
Takeda's got a half marathon PB of 62.22, so that would indicate that he's sub 2:10 material, wouldn't
Definitely,
it? So
definitely, yeah.
It's a matter of what sort of form he's in. That's a little bit hard to know. Any intelligence there you can share with us?
I talked to both him and his coach before the race, and he said he was very nervous about the race. It's his first marathon outside Japan, and he was very nervous, uncomfortable about being in an unfamiliar environment and being up against mostly non-Japanese field. But
yes.
it's not showing it in the race. He seems to be running
Now, if
well.
we haven't got Kawuchi and Fujiwara there, what are we to read into that? That's a bit of a surprise for you because they were the two names we thought we'd be calling right through to the end, but it looks like they might have slipped off the pace a bit. In fact, we've got some 25k splits
Yeah,
there.
I'd be curious to see the splits.
Okay, so someone you know well who's got a Japanese connection, Cyrus Dewey, is there and about. So we've got 5 runners still on that about 3:05 pace or something like that. So that's looking all right. We've still got our lead pacemaker there, Isaac Wandui. We can see he's looking around in the orange singlet there, just trying to make sure the pack comes there with him. One that's a little bit of a surprise is Jeffrey Eggleston. I know he's a 2:11 runner from Boston. I wasn't sure that he'd be there ahead of the Japanese.
That is a surprise. Yeah, he seemed to think he was not going to be in the front pack in this race, so it is a big surprise to see him right up among the top contenders at this point.
Stephen Tum is in contention as well. Sila Limo also from I think Ethiopia, isn't he, Steve? So a couple of surprise names there. Nicholas Manza, we barely had to mention his name. There was a concern as to whether Manza was not in great shape, and we don't think he's going to feature the equal record holder, Brett.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a disappointment in that regard, but perhaps he and Kawuchi are running a bit of a duel further back in the pack. So, yes, Kawuchi, we're told, has fallen off the lead pack of 6 runners, confirming what we're seeing visually there. So, who have we got there? We've got Cyrus Dewey, and who's there running with him? Is that Limo?
Limo up front, and then it looks like Eggleston right behind them. Manza and Dewey would be next. A little bit further back. After the gap would be Manza and Dewey.
So we're seeing a bit of a breakaway here, and Jeffrey Eggleston of the US going with the lead runners. We often haven't seen a decisive break till around 30 kilometres until they come up over that ridge passing the start-finish line. So these guys, they're having a crack. That's not a bad sign, Brett.
It's early, I think, for this kind of move, but doesn't seem unrealistically fast. I think the big move that came last year seemed unsustainable when the move came near 31 kilometres. But this seems a gradual increase.
So the pack is spread there, Steve. We've got 6 runners who are still, I would say, they're all in touch with each other. That's Limo trying to break it open there. Limo or Tum? Okay, no, I think that's Limo there. So they're still all in connection. The rubber band, that invisible rubber band that we talk about, hasn't split yet, but the next kilometre could decide this.
Yeah, they're only just through halfway, as we're finding in this race. It's unusual for someone to go that early and continue to keep going. So, what do you reckon, Brett? I mean, it's quite decisive. He's sweating up a little bit, so it's often, that's a sign it's a little bit warmer out there. They are running very fast, but they had about a 20-second gap over that second pack with a couple of the Japanese, Arata and Yuki in that pack. So I just sense this might be a bit early. I reckon there could be some carnage in the second half of the race. So I'm not sensing this as a decisive move just yet. I wouldn't be panicking because they are running so fast. So I think they're probably okay at this point in time. But they're probably slipping off the pace. That will be the issue. If these front runners start dropping off, Ian and Brett, then it shows that the pace is probably, the winning time's going to be more in the 2:10s, 2:11. At the moment, they are still on that 2:8, 2:9 pace, but as soon as if we're saying that this isn't the winning break, then someone who is going to win is going to be running slower. So inherently, that means the time is going to be more like 2:10, 2:11.
But Steve, I'm liking the look of the splits that I've seen from Limo. So he has picked up the pace. His 20k split was 15:07 and 15:05 through 25k. So that tells me that he is going to have a crack. He's trying to break this open. It's a very courageous move going this early. Can he hold on to this? That's what we don't know.
I notice also it looks as though the pacers are out.
Yes. So we've got our 2 pacers. Quigley, Westcott dropped out earlier,
and we're hoping that Isaac might go to 30, but it's always hard. I mean, his job, he's done. He's probably to 25, and I think at such a fast pace, he's probably found it that was challenging to get them through 25k so fast. I think this is quite fast. I'm not surprised that this is breaking up pretty early because the pace has been so red hot. Whilst they were consistent for the first lots of 5K. They were running that 15-15. They've actually picked it up a little bit, and that's really smashed this field apart. I still think that the field's smashed, but I think there's going to be a lot of running to go yet in this race.
Stephen Lemo, he is putting the pedal to the metal. He's taking a bit of a gamble. This is a long way from home, Steve, to back yourself this far out. Is that something you would have wanted to try in a marathon like this?
Well, no, to be honest, but anyway, he's running, he's in pretty good form. I would just stay, I always think in this race, the race really is won and lost in the second half. Once they come up over the hill out in front of our studio here through 31K and head out to Runaway Bay, that's where the racing starts. Why not sit in the pack for another 5 or 6K and let that unfold when the race is really there to be won? I think this is slightly early, and as you know, Ian, I've been wrong many times before, but I'm saying that at this fast pace, I don't think that Lemo, I reckon it's a bit premature to be going this far out.
What would he be thinking? He's obviously feeling good, the fact that he's prepared to back himself this far out. Logic would have said you would sit with the other guys and you'd just be prepared to work together.
Yeah, and that's obviously, he's feeling really good. And, you know, that's a good sign. Obviously, he doesn't put a break in like this unless he's feeling great. But, you know, he won't, I don't think he's run this course before. He's probably not quite as aware as some of the more experienced runners in the race as to what's up in front. So he's a very compact. That's the one thing I noticed with Lemo, even early in the race. He's almost a shuffling.
Yes.
Got a very efficient marathon style compared to Eagles. I think that, would you say I'd say that's starting to struggle.
Yeah. What do you think of his form there, Brett? I mean, he looks more like a track runner, but he's high arm action. He's working the upper body hard.
I certainly agree with that assessment. Yeah, seems to be labouring a little bit early. It's a little bit early for this amount of labour, I would say.
Yeah, and Tum there as well, Stephen Tum of Kenya. So those guys presumably will try and work together. Is Tum struggling to hang on to Eggleston?
He's going past him, yeah. So I think that shows. I think Jeffrey Eggleston's probably struggling a bit, and Stephen Tum. So the Kenya's actually going well. I'm a little bit surprised. I thought it might be Ethiopia v Japan, to be honest, and it might still be. But at this point in time, a couple of our Kenyans are certainly putting it to the other countries and runners at this point in time.
So, Brett, no Kawauchi, no Fujiwara, Takada we think might be the lead. Can any of those three Japanese come back from here?
Well, I would say, one thing I would say about Yuki is he does have a history of falling off the leaders, you know, around 25 kilometers and then really clawing his way back after 35 kilometers. So I don't know where his current position is, how far he'll be back, but I would expect, based on his history, to see him really push that last section and advance up.
Arata was just a little gap ahead. He was in between at halfway. So what I'm expecting is that maybe Arata might drop back and maybe they might pack up a little bit, and he and Yuki might run together a little bit.
I could certainly see him keying off.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's happening behind. Whilst we're not seeing vision of that, I would expect that that's probably what's happening. They'll be biding their time, realising that this is very fast and that these runners are likely, they'll back themselves, they'll be expecting that the runners will come back to them if they can hold their form.
So we're looking at Stephen Lemo, the race leader in the 2014 Gold Coast Airport Marathon. That gap is certainly not a winning gap. We've got a long way to go. But
what number is he there, Ian? What number does it say on that bib? 19. So there you go.
Yes,
that's
there's almost a ranking in a sense, isn't there, with the bib numbers?
I used to have a theory, if you finish higher than your number, you're going pretty well. So he's 18 places ahead at the moment. He's going extremely well. So the numbers are their numbers are based on their personal best and their times, except for the defending champions. But generally, that's a sign of where you're ranked on time in the field. So he is running very, very well at this point in time.
Stephen Lemo, he has thrown down the gauntlet to the field. He's broken up the pack of runners here at Gold Coast Airport Marathon. He's taken a punt a long way from home. Anything to read into the face there, Brett? He looks pretty relaxed. It's always a bit hard to tell whether there's any anxiety or stress on the face.
He's sweating quite a bit, but he does look relaxed.
Blowing his nose, looking at his watch. Now when you look behind, I never like runners looking. People have heard me commentate before. Never like when they look behind. That wasn't a look of worry. that was a look of where are they behind me, because I'm going pretty well here. So that's a positive behind look. If you could ever have a positive behind look, that was one. He's checked the watch, he's cleared his nose, he's looked behind to see that and he's travelling very well at this point in time. He is running like the winner of the race at this point in time. I don't think he will win, but he certainly is running as if he is at this point in time.
Now, Limo looks to me like he is not running to a time, he's running how good marathoners should. You just run how you feel on the day. Brett, is that something which is a good tactic to invest in?
I'm certainly trying to sustain a steady pace, smooth. I mean, if you look at him, his motion is very smooth, not straining, just sustaining. That's trying to run an even pace at a sustained effort is definitely the way to go.
Just to talk a little bit, I know they're not in the picture at the moment, but this rivalry between Fujiwara and Koichi, we were talking before, this interesting subplot between the two of them, and they're two independent runners. Just give us the Japanese landscape in that regard.
Well, at the elite level, Japanese running is really dominated by what amounts to a professional league of corporate teams. They're nominally amateur clubs sponsored by companies, but in any other country it would be considered a professional sports league. And what's unique about both Fujiwara and Koichi is that they are operating outside of that. Fujiwara is privately sponsored. He's a complete independent. He formerly belonged to the JR corporate team, which, interestingly enough, Takada, the top running Japanese, is a current member of, so they're former teammates. Koichi has always been outside that, so they have kind of provided an impetus toward the corporate runners, really inspiring them with their performances to up their game, and that's really turned around the state of Japanese men's marathoning over the last 4 or 5 years.
So it really, and we've almost got this bit of a subplot really in Japanese running, the sort of, the old way of the corporate running versus the independent runners. And as you've been telling me, Fujiwara and Koichi are almost trying to show there is a different way outside the norm, which is a bit kind of against the rule and the discipline of Japanese style and culture, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Fujiwara, when he broke away from the corporate team system, his goal was to show that there needs to be more flexibility, that the corporate runners' primary emphasis, the corporate league's runners' primary emphasis is not on marathoning, but on road relays, the ekiden, which is a very popular form of racing in Japan and popular as a spectator sport. And the ekiden has become so popular that it often limits the athletes' abilities to run full marathons when they want to. And so Fujiwara, in going independent, wanted to show that there needs to be more emphasis on marathoning and flexibility for other approaches and such. Koichi has always just been independent-minded. He's never been part of the system. He chose not to go to a major running university, not to be a star in university. He didn't want to join a corporate team. He just wanted to go his own way. So he's very much an independent-minded person.
Now, we'll cross down to Mossy and Robbo very shortly with Gold Coast Marathon legend Pat Carroll. But just before we leave the Japanese running scene, Brett, just inform our listeners and viewers about the this concept, which is the Ekiden Relay, which on the first couple of days of each new year just captivates the Japanese population.
Oh, that's right. That's in Japan on January 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, there's 3 days of live TV broadcasts of road relays, men's road relays. On January 1st, it's the Corporate Men's National Championships. January 2nd and 3rd, it's the University Championships, the Hakone Ekiden. And the Hakone Ekiden in particular, if you can imagine, 2 days, 7-8 hours a day of live road running on TV relays, and it gets 30-35% national viewership rating. Tens of millions of people watch it. It's the biggest single sporting event, biggest television event in Japan. So, yeah, it's road running, road relays are a major spectator sport there.
I've got to subscribe to Japanese cable TV because I've been heaven watching road relays for 3 days. I don't know about you, Mona, but just the national obsession, it is quite extraordinary to see the way it captivates a population, a bit like our Boxing Day test or Melbourne Cup. It stops the nation in Japan.
And there's no doubt that it develops Japanese distance runners, because we've seen them come through the university Ekiden teams, and it's unbelievably popular. And it's less spectating, it's participating. They have just phenomenal amounts of teams, Ekiden teams turning up, and I really think it's great for Japanese distance running. And hey, why can't we get that going in Australia? It'd be a terrific thing if it becomes part of our DNA.
Wouldn't it be terrific to see? Now we're looking at Stephen Limo, the leader of the Gold Coast Airport Marathon. He looks as if he's looking around enjoying the scenery, Brett. He looks as if he's loving it. His gap is getting wider. He was 15:05 for his 20 to 25k split. He's getting quicker.
He's going very well. We've got a couple of updates. Troopy's just over that 220, so there's a couple, Al Stevenson and John Dutton, they were all together and running about 2:21, so they're going really well, and that's the battle for the Australian title. And the women, Kato's broken away, the Japanese has broken away from the couple of Ethiopians by about half a minute, and she's actually still getting faster. She is in the low 2:27, so she's running extremely well. She's going really well at the moment and got good history. She's young and she's probably, yeah, she's looking pretty strong.
So Troopy is about 8 minutes off the pace. Now, just to illuminate things a little bit, guys, some of the last splits, Kawauchi dropped from 15:27 to a 15:43 5K between 20 and 25. Fujiwara, Brett, bad Fujiwara is here today, 17:05 for his 20 to 25K split. So he's in a world of trouble.
Yeah. There's Limo. We've got the split through 30K. He's actually picked it up. You are right, and you're onto it. He's down to, he's averaging, as you can, we know he's running 90, just under 91, which is actually that's 302. So he's under 302 pace now, which is, I know for a fact, 302, 28:16.
Yep. But isn't he not going to win, Mona? Can we go back to the tape of about 10 minutes ago? Mona said, we're not looking at the leader here, so again, I should get a sneaky bet with you, mate. Viewers, listeners, don't take Steve Monaghetti's Melbourne Cup bets, because or maybe go the opposite, but Stephen Limo is powering home. We see him going past a couple of the wheelchair races there. So he's just come across the Southport Broadwater. He will be coming up to the 30-kilometre mark. He's got about a 23-second gap on Jeffrey Eggleston of the US, and Stephen Kibiwat has moved back into the picture, overtaking Stephen Tum. So, and Cyrus Dewey, he's 30 seconds off the pace there. So there's still some fascinating battles happening between those top five for the podium places, but we've got a 23-second gap here, Brett. That is significant, isn't it?
Yes, yes. It is. I'm very surprised to see Eggleston has pulled back into second. I think the last time we saw him, he was being overtaken, so that's a real surprise.
And Kenyan and American, 4 Kenyans and an American in that top 5. That is a real surprise.
Definitely.
Not only have I got the winner wrong, I'm actually even the countries I'm not having a good.
Well, I was talking Japan versus Kenya. I was there with you, Steve. I thought we would see
I thought the Ethiopians would be more prominent as well. So I'm thinking Japan, Ethiopia, then Kenya, but that's not how it's working. And he looks great. He's got his drink, no problems, looked around. So he's in good shape at the moment because he's not having any trouble with those little, what I call the finer points of marathon running, getting your drink, responding quickly, fine motor skills are still there. If he starts to lose his fine motor skills, that's when we know that he's running out of glycogen and starting to struggle, but no issues.
No, we notice he's just drinking water there, Steve. Many of the athletes have special drinks. Maybe he's had a special drink before or after this. You do need to mix it up. But you need a bit more than water. You need something with some glucose in there or some sort of energy to keep you going.
Yeah, a little bit of a combination. But if it's a bit warmer, maybe the hot weather would be more water, so that's good.
Of course, those energy little sachets, goos and gels. Brett, you've run a few marathons.
I have.
Are you a goo or a gel kind of guy? What works for you?
I tend to use gels.
Yeah.
I'll use 2 or 3 in the course of a race.
And these are sort of intense carbohydrate little burst for you. And it can make or break the difference if you have those goos or gels. We're going to head back out on the course because our race leader, Stephen Limo, is coming very close past the start-finish line. We can see Jeffrey Eggleston. He's back within touch, so I reckon Eggleston is catching Limo. This could be very interesting as we go out on the course to Mossy and Robbo and Pat Carroll. We're going to see how the race unfolds from their bird's eye view out there. Out to you, Mossy and Robbo.
Of course, the tension is rising. We've managed to bump into marathon running royalty Pat Carroll. We're at about the 31, 32k mark here, top of the hill. And Pat, mate, the emotion must be running thick through your blood at the moment.
Well, it certainly is. I mean, Josh, this fellow is just about to run past us here at the moment, Stephen Limo, on 2:08 pace. I mean, never before in Australia have we had a runner on 2:08 pace, except for the Commonwealth Games back in Brisbane, but they did slow to 2:09.18. But Stephen is looking extremely focused. Long way to go, though. It is a long way to go. It is going to get warmer. The temperature is going to rise over the next 30 minutes. Stephen does have 30 minutes of tough running ahead of him, but boy, oh boy, wouldn't it be great if we got a 2:08 here this morning?
And the fella you're seeing on the screen coming in next, Jeffrey Eggleston from Boulder, Colorado. And he's the first American marathoner to come out and run the Gold Coast Marathon. And tell us, how do you reckon he's looking at the moment, Paddy?
Oh, what a surprise. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Jeffrey has a PB of 2:11. So if I'm not incorrect, and then he is actually having an unbelievable run. But, you know, this is the business part of the race, and the marathon is not about the first 30K, it's about the last 12. So this is when sort the men out from the boys.
Well, the beauty of having us both on shot now, Pat, is the fact that we're finally seen in the same room. People are often telling us that we look the same and I run the same as you. We're very close. But isn't it great for everyone out there to know that we are different people?
They do say I'm better looking than you, though.
It's controversial.
I want DNA testing as soon as this is finished. Look, Paddy, you had a run today in the half. How'd you go?
You know, I paced 1 hour 40 and I got through it okay, but I'm a little bit sore now. My longest run leading into it was 50 minutes, so I doubled my long run this morning, but it's just great to be involved. And it was absolutely, the conditions out there this morning were beautiful. Coming along on the way home and the Broadwater there at Southport, magnificent. It was like glass. Geez, it's a great event to be involved in.
From a runner's perspective, I mean, you're a Brizzy boy, but down here on the Gold Coast, it's a pretty handy course to be coming out here and to run one of your PBs as well.
Well, it is. I mean, it's the fastest course on hand in Australia. You know, it's the best marathon in Australia. Gold label status. The only event in Australia to have gold label status, and it's just great. You know, it's a great tourism destination. It's a great excuse to get away from the cold winter and come to the Gold Coast, where it's, you know, it's still a little bit cool and it's still okay to run a marathon, but it's still nice during the day when you get out in the sun also.
And Pat, we've got these elite runners out in front. They're on 2:08 pace. Just what would a 2:08 marathon mean on Australian soil?
It would be a great injection to the event itself, even though we do have the gold label status now, which is a fantastic achievement. But you know, the faster the course record, then the more notoriety the event has. So if we get a 2:08 marathon here this morning, 2:09, then it just lifts the credential, lifts the CV of the Gold Coast Airport Marathon just a little bit more.
Well, there you are, folks. Well, it's been great to catch up with Pat Carroll, get some of his thoughts on the race out here. As I said, my heart rate's just skipped a beat as we saw the elite marathoners come by there. We look forward to seeing what they can do and maybe even get under that 2:08. It's going to be huge. We're going to send it back to you guys back in the studio.
Flying from the Gold Coast Airport is easy, with hundreds of direct flights every week to the most popular destinations, including Sydney over 25 times a day, Melbourne over 15 times a day, and Cairns 7 days a week. Parking is affordable from only $16 a day, and convenient too, with online booking. Flights are frequent with a range of leading airlines. See where you could fly to at goldcoastairport.com.au.